Good morning, everyone. We're going to be in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 is where we're going to start today. I welcome you to find that in your Bible or Bible app. While you're turning over there, if you're visiting with us, thank you so much for being here. We have a great membership here, and we would love for you to be a part of that. If you're interested, I hope you'll see one of us after church. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, we're going to read the first 8 verses. There is an appointed time for everything, and there is a time for every event under heaven. A time to give birth and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to shun embracing. A time to search and a time to give up as lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear apart and a time to sew together, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Sunday night I had the opportunity to sit down with a young couple who's going to be getting married this year. And it was fun to sit and talk to them as they're thinking about picking a wedding day. When are we going to get married? And perhaps the day may depend on the venue. Where are we going to get married and what's available? And who are we going to invite to that? And they said, you know, it may be a small wedding, which is a nice way of saying you probably won't get an invitation. But it was fun to sit and talk to them about that. And I think maybe they were more interested in talking about some other things with me. But as I look at this list here in Ecclesiastes, a time to love, and a time to laugh, and a time to dance, and I think about this young couple, and this year is going to be so exciting for them. And I think what they really wanted to talk to me about was a time to build. They were asking, you know, what are the differences between going and buying a home that's already been built and maybe building one for ourselves other than picking the floor plan? And so, you know, we kind of talked about that. And as we're sitting there talking, I told them, I said, you know, I hope y'all enjoy this year. Enjoy this moment. And not only this moment, but, you know, as you embark upon marriage together, just the time that you get to spend together. No rush to have kids. Enjoy that time that you get to spend together and getting to know each other and getting to spend that time together. And then the mother of the groom-to-be corrected me because I think she's stuck in verse 2. She says, well, don't tell them they have to wait too long before having kids. She's ready for grandkids, I guess. And so we look at these passages and we think about people like that and some young people, and we think about all the wonder and excitement that this year is going to bring for them. You know, Guy spoke last week about a new year. And at the end, he read the poem where, get a fresh piece of paper. What can we do with this? And we think about what we can do and the good things we can do. But you know, as we begin this year, not everyone's in a great place. Not everyone's in a great place. Last year didn't end the way everyone wanted it to. And for some people, this year will be a hard year because there will be changes that they haven't had to endure and new experiences that they haven't had to go through that this year they will. A time to die, a time to tear down, a time to weep, a time to throw stones, a time to give up as lost. Some people have had damaged relationships, they've lost loved ones. And as we transition from last year to this year, there isn't the great promise that perhaps there is for this young couple starting their life together. Instead, it's more thinking about rebuilding and picking up where I am. And so, if you find yourself in that moment this morning, we're going to think about verse 3, a time to heal. And I hope that these thoughts this morning, if you are dealing with some of these things, will be helpful and encouraging to you as you move into the new year. That this year can be better than perhaps you think it's going to be going into it. Things change. That's the difficulty of this life, is things change. Things are going so well, and then one thing changes, and it may change the entire course of our lives. Things change, and for many of us, at some point, we may have felt helpless or hopeless Because things have changed. There is a season for everything. That's what Solomon's trying to tell us. You go through those 8 verses there, and it's almost like he puts the entire life experience right there. Things change. You'll experience this. You'll experience that. You get the whole spectrum of life. And that includes, unfortunately, misfortune. But what I want to talk about this morning is we have to guard against letting a moment or even a season of misfortune become an ongoing outlook for our life. Just because things went bad in one particular season of our life doesn't mean that the rest of our life is going to be bad. There's still good things that can happen to us and for us. But adversity tests our faith. There's no doubt about it. And I think it's important to note how adversity affects us. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 23 says, "Now may the God of peace himself sanctify you entirely." How is that? May your spirit and soul and body be kept complete. Do you see that? We are 3 aspects to our being. We are physical. We understand that, especially as you get older and you may get up and have some pains here and there. We are physical, and we are spiritual, which is why we're here this morning, because we have a soul and we're thinking about our eternity. But also, we are emotional. You know, emotional health, emotional well-being, mental health is something that we started to talk about more in our society lately. But do we talk about it in the church enough? About somebody's mental health, about their mental well-being? Because we need to understand that on that level, the devil will tempt us, and he will pursue us, and he will come after us. So we are 3-part beings, and stresses can affect us on any of those 3 levels. James also talks about the same thing. James chapter 5 and verse 13, "Is anyone among you suffering? He must pray." That suffering there is not pain or sickness, I don't think. I think he's talking about emotionally. Emotionally, are you suffering? Because look what he says there in the next question. Is anyone cheerful? So he's contrasting. Are you suffering emotionally? Or are you cheerful emotionally? And then he goes into verse 14, is anyone among you sick? Now he's talking about physically, emotionally, physically. Then you get down to verse 19, if any among you strays from the truth. Now he's talking about spiritually. So as we think about the nature of our being, we are emotional, we are physical, and we have a soul that will live forever. And disappointment and hardship can show up in any of these 3 areas in our life. I want you to think about a couple of metaphors that people use when we're talking about hardship. You hear that someone's going through hardship. You may hear adversity compared to bad weather. They're going through a dry spell. They're under the weather. We just had a list of people on the board that were under the weather. Things are going well for someone, and then they say, and then it rained on my parade, which means what? Things turned against me. There's dark clouds overhead. Or when somebody is staring down something very bad, we may say, there's a bad storm on the horizon for them. Have you ever heard any of those? Or you think about obstacles perhaps as a mountain. It's a mountain in your life. They're under a mountain of stress. I'm under a mountain of work. I'm under a mountain of problems. I'm under a mountain of debt. You may have heard somebody say that before. They have a steep hill to climb, or it's going to be a long uphill battle for them. You ever heard any of those expressions? And so I think when we find ourselves in that, under that weight, in a place of anxiety, the temptation is to start just thinking, well, Jesus can fix all of this, right? I have storms in my life, but Jesus calms the storms. So I need Jesus to come into my life and calm this storm. I got this great mountain in front of me, but Jesus said if you had faith like a seed, you can move a mountain. So I have faith in Jesus, and Jesus can calm storms, so where's my miracle, right? Where's my miracle so that all this goes away? But what happens when the miracle doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen like we think it should? What are we left with? Well, probably in the immediate, some disappointment. And long term, perhaps some questions. Like, where is God in this? Where is God in this? And why is this happening to me? Because I don't deserve this. I'm a good person. Why is this happening to me? And then, long term, we start thinking, and how am I ever going to get through this? It's just too much. I'm going to use some simple Southern grammar here. The devil ain't stupid. He's pretty smart. And he understands he can use our physical nature against us, and he can use our emotional nature against us to break us spiritually. He's going to pursue us. And so as we continue, I want us to perhaps consider some thoughts that I hope will help heal if you're experiencing some moments like this. The first thing is God is still in control. So the 23rd Psalm is probably one of the most famous chapters in the Bible. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. But now get down to verse 4. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Understand this as David's writing this. He doesn't have a mountain before him. He's got mountains on every side of him. Every side of him. His enemies want to kill him. Wild animals want to kill him. Some of his own people want to kill him. His best friend's dad, the king, wants to kill him. He's got mountains everywhere. God, move my mountains. Right? And look what he says here, verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. God, I wish you would move all these mountains, and yet God says, I'm not moving the mountains, but I will prepare a table for you right there in the valley. I'm still here. I'm still taking care of you. May not have been what you wanted, but I'm still with you, and I'm still in control. And we need our faith more than ever when we're tried and we're tested. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6 says, Therefore humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you at the proper time, casting all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you. And so we have to ask ourselves, do we believe that? You know, we need to have the faith that God is in control, that he does care for me, that he will lift me up, pick me up when I am down. When I'm down physically, when I'm down emotionally. And those things are affecting me spiritually. Psalm 145 and verse 14, the Lord sustains all who fall and raises up all who are bowed down. And when that happens, when he sets that table before me in the valley, my faith is deepened. My faith is deepened in that moment. Now, it would have been easy just to move all the mountains, but what would I get out of that? I've learned to rely on him because he's providing for me when things aren't easy and things aren't going well. The second thing I want to encourage all of us to remember, whatever you're dealing with, you can handle this. You can handle this. Because that's the thing, people, when a lot of stress gets on them, they say, I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know if I can make it through this. We can handle this. We need to remind ourselves everybody is dealing with something. It doesn't matter how perfect somebody else's life may look. I promise you, everybody, all of us in this auditorium are dealing with something. You have some challenge in your life. Other people may see it. Other people may have no idea about it. But all of us are dealing with something. And other people have dealt with challenges, and they've dealt with similar challenges to us, and they've overcome. And you can do it too, and so can I. Now, there's plenty of Old Testament examples I could talk about. Noah and his flood, Moses in the wilderness, Joshua and the armies he had to fight, obstacles that had to be overcome, challenges. I want to think about the Apostle Paul. I was reading through Acts the other day. Think about this with me. Acts chapter 19 and verse 11. Paul is at Ephesus, okay? It says, God was performing extraordinary miracles by the hands of Paul, so that handkerchiefs or aprons were even carried from his body to the sick, and the diseases left them, and the spirits went out. Paul was able to perform these incredible miracles. This also happened on the island of Malta. Countless people here he helps. Acts 28, verse 9. After this happened, the rest of the people on the island who had diseases were coming to him, that is Paul, and being cured. Imagine being trusted with that kind of power, okay? Somebody comes to you, they are disabled in whatever way, blind, mute, evil spirits, diseases, and you have the power to heal that person. The fact is, you have so much power that, here you go, take my handkerchief to them, and that will heal them. That's how much power you've got. But you can't heal yourself. Remember, I don't know what his thorn in the flesh was. I kind of think it was blindness myself. I think there's several clues in the Bible that point to that. If it wasn't that, he struggled with his eyesight, I can tell you. Imagine being able to help somebody who's blind see, and you can't heal yourself. Do you think he ever struggled with that? Yes. He's human. How do you not lay down in bed at night, think about all the people you just healed, and still deal with the frustration of, this is what I'm dealing with, and I can't fix it? He asked God 3 times. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 8. Take this away, please. He wanted it gone, at least initially. But look what happens to him emotionally. Get to verse 10. Therefore I am well content with weakness, with difficulties, it says later in the verse. He learned to live with it. Emotionally, he wasn't there to begin with. I can heal all these other people. I can't help myself. God, I've asked you 3 times and you haven't helped me. And now he says, but I've learned to become content. For when I am weak, then I am strong. He understands the same thing that David understood. God is taking care of me in my weakness, in my shadowy valley. He's taking care of me. You can handle this. Whatever you're dealing with, you can do this. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. You've probably seen it on a bumper sticker, because that's where it shows up a lot. And so this becomes kind of a motto for personal success. I can run a marathon because I can do all things through him who strengthens me. And I will finish all of my course studies and graduate with a PhD because I can do all things through him who strengthens me. And if we use it that way, we misuse it. That's not the context of the passage. It should be understood the context of Paul's letter to the Philippians. He's expressing gratitude and contentment for any situation. And he's reminding them, and he's reminding us that we're able to endure trial and hardships because we keep our eyes on Jesus. That's what he's saying. It's not, I can accomplish this great feat because I can do all things through him who strengthens me. It's no, whatever you're going through, you can do this. You can handle this moment because he strengthens you. That's the context of the verse. We have to keep our eyes on Jesus. I'm going to say we need to focus on today. If you're dealing with extreme difficulty, you know, sometimes one day is enough to worry about. Matthew chapter 6 and verse 34, so do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. You know, sometimes in life when things are going well and we're kind of cruising along, you can kind of think ahead. And sometimes when tragedy happens, one day at a time is enough. Sometimes we need to just focus on what do I need to do today in this moment to make it through today. You know, one thing about my job, I get to meet a lot of different people. And a couple of years ago, Matt and I go out to do work for an older lady. She's in her early 70s at the time. And she was in a wheelchair. And she's telling me, I was in a car accident a few months back. And somebody T-boned me. And it's left me in this wheelchair. She's like, I'm never going to walk again. And she's like, to make things worse, they left the site. They left the scene where it happened. She's like, I don't even know who it was. she's like, I've gone through all of our insurance. I've gone through all the money that I have left. And I don't know how I'm going to pay you to fix this piece of trim around the window. You know, if something like that happens in your life, that kind of tragedy, you know, for her to think, how am I going to live the rest of my life in this wheelchair? Some days it's enough to just go, how do I get through today in this wheelchair? People who struggle with sin, I don't know, maybe addiction. How am I going to go the rest of my life without ever going to alcohol for an answer? Well, that's a pretty big mountain when we set it up that way. I don't know that anybody could do that. How am I going to go the rest of my life without sinning? That's a pretty big challenge. When you think of it that way, you think, I can't. How can I get through today without sinning? I can do that. I can think about my choices today, make better choices than I have in the past, and make it through today without sinning. That is an achievable goal. And you know what? I can do the same thing tomorrow. And then I can do the same thing the next day. One day at a time, that's it. That is enough. And remember that we have a Savior who understands. Hebrews 4 verse 15 says that He can sympathize with our weaknesses. He lived as a human. He knows what it feels like, physically and emotionally, what it feels like. I'm going to add this on there. In moments of extreme grief, when things are really bad in our lives, and we all have a few of those moments through life, be very, very careful about what you put in front of you. Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 2 says we need to fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. When things are going extremely bad and the outlook is very grim, be very, very considerate about what you put in front of yourself. Matthew chapter 6 and verse 22, Jesus there says, the eye is the lamp of the body. So then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. Now, when things are very bad, and we all have one of these, it's a cell phone, I don't know that this is the thing you need to go to. When you're dealing with anxiety and you're dealing with stress and mentally you feel broken, I don't know that picking up your phone is the answer. Because this thing is incredible. It has the unique ability to take every known problem in the world and deliver it to you, right at your fingertips. And if you're already dealing with problems, maybe reading about more is not the answer. You know, word gospel means the good news. And if you're down, maybe that's what we need to pick up and let it pick us up. Be careful about what you put in front of yourself. And find hope. There's still plenty of things to have hope in the world. Hope is the strongest medicine. I believe that. Spiritually, I believe that. Emotionally, hope is the strongest medicine. And some things haven't changed. You know, regardless of what you're dealing with, God still loves you. Your soul's value cannot decrease. I don't usually chase a rabbit, but I'm going to do it just for a minute this morning. Bear with me. I think that was last Sunday night. Daniel put the picture up on the screen of the image that was taken with the James Webb telescope. And if you don't know what that is, that's this billion-dollar telescope that they've sent into space to see how far they can see. Their idea is if we can see far enough, we can see the first light. You know, light travels. We can see the first light from the Big Bang. That's the whole reason they spent $1 billion on this. If they'd read the first 20 verses of Genesis, they would have a better understanding of what they're looking for. So they're thinking we can see far enough into space that we can see the first light from the Big Bang. So they built this $1 billion telescope, sent it up. We're going to see how far out into space we can see. And some of those images are incredible. Absolutely incredible. Things that have never been seen before by human eyes. What's really neat about that is to think about Abraham and Noah and all these great people in the Bible never saw those things, but we can, which means God made those things for us. He didn't make it for them, He made them for us to see right now in this moment. So that telescope can see so far away that it can see galaxies and solar systems that are millions of light years. If we were to travel at the speed of light, it would take us millions of years to get to these places. The universe is that massive, okay? God's creation is that big. And so Daniel was saying that somebody looked at this and said, I feel insignificant. I'm so small in all of this. Okay, think about this. As big as all of that is, God is going to destroy all of that and cares about saving you. What's insignificant? We're not insignificant in the universe. We're the only thing that matters in all of this. No matter how far they can see, all that's getting destroyed. But you, God cares about. You, He wants to save. And your soul's value is not going anywhere. No matter what happens in your life, you're every bit as valuable to God. And eternity still awaits. It's still waiting for us. The most important things have not changed. And there's still other blessings too. Philippians chapter 4 and verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute. If there's any excellent and anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. When things are going bad, think about something good. Think about something good and focus on that. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's something else. Focus on something else. Find hope. Things may never go back to the way they were, but we can still have things in this moment that we enjoy. Things that remind us of God's love. And the last thing I want us to consider is, even when things are going bad, you still have a purpose. All of us do. You still have a purpose. We can still be the light in the darkness. You're a light to the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, Jesus said. We are the light. Things may appear dim. We can make a difference. We can do that. And consider this, that God is all-powerful. He can do anything, but yet He chooses our faith to carry His will to other people. You thought about that? He doesn't need us, but He chooses us. He chooses to use us, to use our faith to teach other people. That's how much He loves us. That's how much He cares about us. And that's how much value we have to Him. If everything was going wonderful, how could you demonstrate your faith? I got to have faith in Him when things are bad. If things are going good, things are going good. In fact, people often forget God when things are going good. But when things are going bad, we have the opportunity to demonstrate our faith. And living with the challenge, it makes other people more aware of you, and you more aware of other people. Galatians chapter 6 and verse 2, we're supposed to bear one another's burdens. What does that mean? There are a lot of us who've dealt with sickness, death, failed relationships, failed finances, some other kind of trial or loss or trauma. And we've dealt with that in our past. And so when you see somebody else who's dealing with that, and you can say, let me tell you what helped me in that moment. We are sharing with another person, and that is how we fulfill the law of Christ. By helping each other, by bearing each other's burdens. As we conclude this morning, the passage that Cal read, beloved, I pray that in all respects you may prosper and be in good health. In all respects, physically and emotionally, just as your soul spiritually prospers. I was talking to somebody not too long ago who was dealing with some problems in life. And we were talking about church. They said, will everything be fixed just because I become a Christian? Well, if you're thinking of it like in terms of, all my problems are going to go away right now, no. But will everything be fixed because you obey God? Yes. Absolutely. Because whatever problems you're dealing with, even if you deal with them for a lifetime, it's only a moment. Life is only a moment, but your soul is eternal. Disappointment can affect us in this life, but it can only affect us in this life. And that disappointment helps us set our mind on eternity. Last passage we'll read, 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7 through 10. This is from the Living Translation. That is why we never give up. Though our bodies are dying, our spirits are being renewed every day. For our present troubles are small and won't last very long. Yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. So we don't look at the troubles we see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. If you're here this morning and you are a Christian, you're dealing with terrible things in your life, friends, we have hope. We have a hope of going to a place where we don't have to deal with that ever again. But if you're here this morning and you're not a Christian, I cannot offer you that same hope. The Bible does not offer us that same hope. In fact, things will only get worse. Why not this morning do something about that? Why not this morning become a child of God? Have the hope that only Christians have. Have your sins washed away and put on Christ. If we can help you with that or anything else, we invite you to come while we stand and sing.